Hello, friends. Come on in. It's story time with Melissa Lynn. And look who I have in the hot seat. It's Hope Miller, baby. Woo! We've been waiting for this. The author of Does God Forgive Surfers? A novel by Hope Miller. Right on. Thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, super grateful.
Finally.
We've been trying to get this together.
Yes,
We were going to do
this
this
is our
yesterday,
fifth
but
time.
we wanted your mouth to water. So I have questions.
Just go with some questions for me.
So grateful. I just have to thank you. I'm so grateful for your allowing me to read that. Your book
is rad.
It's such an intimate thing, such an intimate, I can't even imagine an intimate experience. Although you then release it, to have that book then read, your words come to life.
Yeah.
If you've not seen somebody do that,
It was so awesome to me to be able to hear my story read through you and have you like react and act out to it and have thoughts about it. And it's like watching somebody read my book, but they're actually doing it out loud. It was amazing. It was so cool. It was so cool for you to do the little characters, and then you're showing people how to peg their pants, and it was
right?
so rad.
It was an organic experience. And we talked, I reached out
so
to you,
hilarious.
Hope, a few times because I was like, I don't know, should I be reading in advance? Because then I thought for sure I'd be able to deliver it better. But I just
I
loved
liked the way you did it.
the authenticity of being surprised with the audience.
Yeah.
Because I'm not an actress, I'm not going to be able to be like fakely surprised very well.
Yeah.
So,
and it's very inauthentic. So,
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love it. And I have so many people come up to me that watched you, like I was telling Melissa, people from Lions Club, these like senior citizen couple are like, we've been watching Melissa Lynn tell your story and we love it. And I love that,
I love that too.
It was really cool.
And some of our audience members, sorry you guys, I feel like I just want to make sure you can hear both of us really well. To have people get it, I know it's nerdy, I know it's bizarre, and people are like, what are you doing? You're reading a book? But you know what? There's so much online that is so dang serious. And although there was lots of serious moments in your book, Hope, it's nice to have 15 minutes to get off of just, flipping through and that constant hit of information that most of which I don't need. So for me too, to share that moment, I would look forward to it. And the craziness of making sure that I got it in before 6 o'clock and I didn't always do it right. It was just such an experience.
It was so fun.
Let's get these questions.
We got to move along.
Okay, sorry. I'm trying to get good lighting, get everything. We got to get intimate. Okay. So, Hope, how did you choose the title for your book?
I didn't choose the title chose me. So I was living in Oxnard Shores at the time with my best friend Heather, her husband, and my daughter. And I was doing a lot of blogging at the time, and the title, Does God Forgive Surfers, came to me then, and I tried to mold a story around the title, and nothing really stuck, so it just sat on a back burner for a while until 2000 and... When did I start writing that? I started writing it, I think in 2014. And I was going for walks by myself. This was before I had my 2 dogs and everything. And I would go for walks in my neighborhood with the music on. And the music started to influence a story coming out of me. So it was literally just walking, listening to music from that time period. And then I'd go home and I'd just freehand and just start coming out of me that way. It was influenced by the music. And the characters, I didn't do any of that outline and definition of characters. Everything just came from somewhere and through me. So as I was writing this story, I was reading this story too. So there would be times where I'm like, oh my God, that just happened. And I keep writing, and some of the, I didn't know that I was going to do it, like start with one character and then continue the story with another character and then continue the story with
that.
I didn't know, I've never read a book like that before. And it just came through me like that. And I have to say, like, Kia starts off, I thought, a little slow because I was new and I didn't know where it was going. But by the time you get to Zane's story, it really starts to get really meaty in there. I mean, hers too. Hers too, like in the middle. But Zane was the hardest character to write besides Kristen because it was really hard to find good qualities to get. Remember, when you were reading it, you're like, I know you said maybe he'll have some qualities I'll like, and I was like, well, just be patient because
you did that beautifully, because as we know, as grown women now, there's, it's coming from pain or hurt or anything that's creating pain on others. And so I knew that there was a painful story beneath this, and therefore a boy originally so I knew that that he's just not, you're not just born rotten.
No.
So I knew that, but it's hard to have forgiveness.
It is. He's, men are not as emotionally stable for quite some time. Most of them, not all of them, but it takes a long time for a man to emotionally grow up, and women too. And so, the point of the story, the main point of the story, it being a time period piece of the 80s, was this group of teens and young adults were raising themselves. The parents aren't around. No one's giving them the good old-fashioned, advice coming from a two-parent home or whatever. Most of the parents weren't around at all. I mean, this comes from personal experience of mine growing up at the beach, and my parents, split when I was 14. And, they have to work, and, I'm single mom out of the house. And so there was no way for us to be checked upon because we didn't have cell phones. We just went out and did our thing, and somehow, well, that's not wood, survived. Right. But it was an interesting time, and that's the main part. And then lots of things happen. The story is fictional. It's not based on any true events. None of that happened. I had a lot of people worried after they read it. They're like, "Are you okay?" And I'm like, "No, it didn't happen.
Right.
That's just my imagination. Nothing happened." But it's based on possibilities of things that might have happened to other people. The characters are based on a collection of people that I've known growing up. I think we all have certain types of people that everybody has a Kristen, or there's a Kia somewhere out there. Yes. Maybe not so many Harrys. There should be more Harrys, and Zane and stuff. And then it's just some of the things that happened in there were just there to actually keep the reader invested as well.
Tell me, now obviously there were a lot of exciting teen sexual adventures, but tell me, was it difficult? It seems like a redundant question, to be honest, but did you find it difficult at times to write some of the more aggressive sexual behaviors of some of these young men? Yeah. As a woman who, even if you haven't personally experienced it, you're going to have known somebody who has intimately. Right. And so tell me about your experience.
It wasn't... to be honest, the sexual scenes and some of the bad behaviors weren't as hard to write as the dialogue. Right. You know what I mean?
Yes.
How, because you have to think like that. So, but back to what you're saying, that I was just pointing out that wasn't the hardest part, but I really hated that character for quite a while because I had to write him in that way, or, others, it was hard to find good sides sometimes, so I just had to portray it like it really was fictionally, but things like that happen, I've been through similar experiences myself. Right. So, and when you're young like that, and maybe your father's out of the home, or you're whatever, you just don't know how, you don't have the skills to deal with it. Especially when at that age, girls are pretty much, that's all they're really needed for. Mm-hmm. That's what they're valued for. Right. Is how worthy they are to be utilized in that way. Right. In some of these beach communities, it's kind of like, it's bikinis, it's in your face, and it's beers and it's bonfires and it's partying, and if you're in high school and you're not giving it up, then you're probably not going to be hanging out with that crew.
Right, I do. But then also it's a slippery slope, because I'm sure it's the same today, but the word slut, when I was growing up, it was a big deal.
Yeah, it was to me too.
So you could cross over really easily and get passed around one too many.
It's not fair. It's not fair. I had, and when I was in high school, I remember hearing rumors about people that I did it with I didn't even know. I remember this one guy, and I had to go and go, I'm Hope, apparently we've done it. Right. And so you get this reputation that's not even earned. Right. Because if people want to label you as something, or utilize you as something that they can live through and say, you know, I need more cred, so I'm going to say this or whatever. It's stupid, but it's kids. We're all,
yeah,
they were just
that's
kids.
the thing. You have to learn
the
these
hormones
things
running around.
with the opposite sex. So the mistakes you make are with each other, these young people just bumbling about, and
Exactly.
I sure can identify that with all of that. And I was going to ask you whether or not it followed the original timeline, but you said it organically came to pass. You know, fragments of my own childhood, as you spoke about, that it was a collection of people you'd known and experiences you'd either had or from other people. And it was funny, as you saw, I got quite emotional at times. I moved to this area in 7th grade from Phoenix, and so it was just landing as a little heavy metal, you know, Phoenix desert rocker in the middle of this beach community at 7th grade, you know.
That's a turning point.
It was
7th
wild.
grade. Yeah, that's rough.
Yeah, it wasn't. So it did unearth these like tiniest bone fragments of not things that I had not already worked through, but it was really beautiful. And I think a lot of us, just based on people's responses and their comments, were experiencing some of that last little unattended to childhood trauma just by hearing it. I know in the recovery community, sharing like the deepest, darkest together as a whole can bring quite a lot of healing by lighting up those bits as a group. And so there was some healing that was done, I feel like, as a community of people. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it totally makes sense. And a lot of people that have read the book, whether they were raised at the beach or raised somewhere else, have said that they can relate to the same type of experiences. So it's not geographical, but it's that age group. It's that headspace. It's, you know, things that if you weren't on a leash growing up, you probably been through some shit. Because no one's watching out for you. So
I'm so grateful we survived.
I think that all the time. I'm all.
Someone said something about being young the other day. Oh, wouldn't that be nice? I said, well, that sounds exhausting. I've already done that. Oh my God. The only thing good about youth is good skin.
Yes.
I mean, that's not true, but
no, it's true.
It's
No, it's
exhausting.
true. Metabolism of good skin is the only thing, really. Maybe some free drinks. I don't know.
So you have children.
I have a daughter.
You have one daughter, and did growing up? I'm not saying that you didn't. You know, well, you spoke on right. So did growing up a little unattended to, no judgment on any of our parents. We've worked through some of this stuff, but did it change at all how you raised your own daughter?
No, I fucked up too.
Oh, that's so beautiful.
It's true. I mean,
right, that's
it's
gorgeous.
True. We all do the best we
is so
can.
beautiful.
She's an amazing young woman. She's 28 years old. She's amazeballs, smart, beautiful. But yeah, I mean, I did the best that I could. But I think in her teenage years, I wasn't really in a good place, or, you know, holding court with the best people. I didn't try to put her in harm's way or anything, but I could have been more. But then, you know, I was working 2 jobs sometimes. I was out not doing, I was working, you know. So I kind of I would have redone her childhood, just her teenage years, but she went to a really good school. There's always regrets as a parent, especially when you're like, well, look, you know, I turned out just fine. Like, I raised me, I'm fine. I'm, you know, more than fine. You know, I'm doing good. But I did have to go through some dark places to get there, and my daughter did too. But you know what? She's come out the other side of that, such a more well-rounded, tough person who's, you know, just the light of my life. And she's just great. So it is what it is, you know?
You know, I think there's beauty. I was speaking with somebody recently, and they were talking about speaking to some of their younger siblings, all grown, but talking about just like trying to present as if there never is problems because he doesn't want to burden them. But I love what you just said, the honesty that you were willing, the vulnerability in that honesty is such a gift to us and to a child, because it is not without ups and downs, and it is through those experiences that the greatest growth is given. But to show your daughter that, look, and mama is willing to say, yeah, not everything went right, because also in her life, things will not always go as she had thought she wanted it to go.
Yeah.
She will
Right.
also,
Oh,
we've
God,
all
yeah.
made the
Oh, God,
decisions.
yeah.
So that is the beauty. You know, did you have people in your, it's a different time, but it seemed more prevalent in generations gone by where you didn't talk about anything and things just went in closed boxes and silence.
That's the huge difference between maybe my relationship with my mother as opposed to my relationship with my daughter. I'm not trying to bash on my mom. I love her dearly, but it's just different, you know.
Yes, we all learn from those things, right?
Because I can go to my daughter and say, I fucked up, you know? And she's, maybe, you know, you did or didn't, but, you know, it's just being able to be vulnerable to your child. A lot of the older generations, like you just said, they want to keep that role defined of, I'm up here and you're down there, so I'll never, you know, admit.
And then I don't get to learn. How did you get out of that? Right? I'm not going to learn without you being able to share that you've also gone through something.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
How, and you have to train me in my living, right?
Yes.
Even if you're my friend, but especially if you're my mama.
Yeah.
I definitely need to see how you fell down, made a bad decision or two, and how you made a decision to make a different decision.
I 100% agree with you. I couldn't agree with you more, and we can definitely go more into this off camera because that's a good conversation.
It's really beautiful.
Yeah, no, it's a good conversation. I like it.
Okay, what else is this little
Just
good?
go deep with it. We're swimming in this pool right here.
I love it. Okay. And this is my greedy question, but will there be a sequel? Yeah? Give me more.
So, okay, well, it took me forever to figure out what I've had the sequel in my head, and I've started writing it, and then I stepped back, and I went different. So I've had 3 different directions with the sequel that so far. So and then the title, I was going to call it "Drummers Don't Sleep on Couches," and then, you know, I was thinking maybe it'd just be "Does God Forgive Surfers Too?" And then when I made a bunch of swag for the book, for my book launch that was at the Deer Lodge with the Strand Quentin band and Boots Brigade, it was awesome, that I had been using the logo Surf Sex Salvation. It says "Does God Forgive," you know, on the site. I was like, why can't that be the second book? So I'm gonna call it Surf Sex Salvation.
Surf Sex Salvation.
It's gonna take. It's gonna start exactly the moment the first one left off. So it's gonna just continue on. So it's gonna start in the same timeline. I can't guarantee where it's gonna end, but it's gonna start in 1995. Where we left off at Does God Forgive Surfers, and I think that those that have read Does God Forgive Surfers are going to absolutely love the beginning of Surf Sex Salvation. But I can't tell you why.
I don't even get to know. Oh my God.
No say.
Okay, and so again, you can't help it, but when you're reading, as I was reading this book, it just laid out like a script.
Yeah.
Like it was meant to be on a bigger screen. Than me in my house.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that was a good indie film.
Right.
Yeah.
More of this girl.
Yeah.
So are there any thoughts of film development?
Yeah, well, I wrote it like it was a movie. I absolutely wrote it like it was a movie. So I've tried. You know, if anybody knows anybody,
it's perfect.
It would be a great movie. And
it's perfect. And you know what you said is true about it could be because I had folks writing in that they grew up in the country down south and it was the same thing, just backwoods, you know.
Yeah.
So, and also as I was reading it, knowing some of the children who are now growing up in these exact same places that you wrote about, and having just watching them walk through the same things. The kids today are walking through the exact same things, and these children are actually growing up at this beach. So this movie, it crosses all of it works for all of the ages, all of the generations, and all of the, you know, anywhere that you've grown up.
Yeah,
perfect.
it's a period piece. You know, it'd be fun to see 80s. Everybody's kind of like loves to go back to the 80s. But it's beach life. Beach life is always going to be interesting to watch because it's a beautiful place.
Sexy.
Sexy. Surfing's always sexy.
People are just
music.
beautiful.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah, well, they're tan.
Yeah, so it's a visual piece.
Yes.
It would be a stunning visual piece with a really fascinating action-filled storyline. Because I think that within each character's stories, I mean, I tried to really kind of keep it moving, so things were happening, like with Natasha, and I mean, I didn't see that coming. Did you? I didn't know she was going to be crazy. I loved it when you said, I think she has mental health problems.
Yes.
And then later on, you found out she had mental health problems.
Totally. I was feeling bad for
Yeah,
Natasha.
I know, you were so perceptive. I was like, how'd she do that? How'd she know? So, I mean, just to keep it interesting, and so there's a lot of violence, there's sex, there's surfing, there's a real groveling emotions, like Kristen, as much as you think that she's so pretentious and stuff. I mean, the kid, like, she's just looking for somebody to love her.
Well, underneath all of these behaviors is a desire for love and to be seen.
Yeah.
And bless her heart, being told she was a princess growing up. You almost want to cringe because we do it without meaning to. But here she is with the, her best attempt at being okay. And I understand that her go-to escape is expensive products and fabulous clothes and looking gorgeous. I can identify with my own versions of those game, sort of my best attempt at control in an uncontrollable moment. So fill in the blank. Yeah. Good shampoo or LSD. Or whatever.
That's awesome.
Okay. Okay, I have another. Okay, so what has been the greatest gift for you in writing this book? I know that's huge, or one of the greatest.
Okay, well, when someone tells me, like, her 15-year-old son is reading this book, because, for one thing, with youth having so many choices of things to occupy their time, for a 15-year-old boy to sit down, I mean, he's going to love a book, but to get the gift of reading, and reason why it's not going to ever be on Kindle or Nook or whatever is book.
You like the physical feeling. I
want the book. I want to read the book. I want to hold the book. And so that's really cool is when I know that, like the other story was this gentleman who's, he was in his 70s, and I was the first book and the only book he's read since he graduated high school.
Oh.
I mean, it's like, what? It's very cool. It's just cool when people are reading. My whole goal for writing a book, and if this happens one day, I will be totally satisfied, because this is what I've always wanted, because this is what I used to do. I used to go to the library when I was younger. I love reading. And to go like in my early 20s or whatever, and I used to go to Ohio Library and get a book, and I didn't know what I was looking for. I just wandered the shelves, and I do it at Barnes and Noble still. And then you just find you get this lucky, or at Bart's Books, and you pull one off, and you're like, I'm gonna give it a shot. And then you go home and you read this amazing story. Well, I want some point at somewhere for a young girl like myself to go to the library, and my book is on the shelf there, and she grabs it, if they even have that in the future, and just reads it.
Oh, don't
you know what I mean? Yeah, I know.
Cry.
They don't know the Dewey Decimal System. How are they going to get their book? So, I mean, but it's something. It's just that was as simple as that. It's like this little girl, like a girl like me, coming across it quite by accident, and it's kind of cool too, because my book's is in Hawaii, it's in New Orleans, somebody has it in Switzerland, just to know that it could be laying around someone's house.
And it's an intimate part of your life. So unlike a tablet or the Kindle or whatever, the intimacy that I have with a paper, I believe it absorbs your spirit, because it's a natural product, and just that relationship that you have, and it may get a drop of something, your coffee,
Yeah,
your
yeah.
tear,
It tells
whatever,
its own story.
your little
Yeah.
fingerprints.
Where it's folded
It's
over.
beautiful.
You find somebody's receipt in there because they left it. You know what I mean?
Press a flower.
Used books are awesome.
Oh my
Used
God.
books are so awesome because you how many people have read that book before you or whatever, you know? So I just like that. I like someone coming upon it by accident, and it's just there for them.
I love that. Did you always know you were going to be a writer?
I've always been a writer. Since
You've
I
always
was
been a
little.
writer. Of course you
Yeah.
have. It's
I mean,
something that's gifted upon you.
It's something you have to
Yeah.
do. You have to do
You have to.
Like some people with music, you have to play music.
Right.
You have to dance.
It's like your
Yeah.
God spot or
You
whatever
can't-
you call that, your universal divine spot where it just like comes
Yeah,
through
you
you.
have to.
Isn't that wild?
Yeah, it
You're
is.
like, I feel like I don't have an alternative.
I know, and
what am I even here for?
I feel really happy that I picked that for this life, you know,
Oh,
that I chose,
totally.
that, like whatever else happens to me in my universe as being this person in this incarnation, I was smart enough when I chose my thing
Apparently
to be
you're
like
a storyteller.
writer. Yeah, yeah.
You may have always
Yeah,
been a
I might
storyteller.
have always been a storyteller.
Well, and I guess
I
you'll
enjoy
continue to be. Honey,
What?
does God forgive surfers?
No.
He doesn't? Does she forgive surfers? You know, the female God may be more forgiving. I'm just kidding. That was rude.
I mean, God's not a sexual thing anyway, so it's
No,
not.
it's not a sense.
It's not a certain gender.
No.
All right, ask me about green flower.
Okay, so I'm really curious because
Okay.
this is. You were involved in a cannabis program called Green Flower. Can you talk about that?
Green Flower Media is an online education for cannabis. So you can, if you go online and you look at Green Flower, they have a library of thousands of videos on cannabis education. So I had taken the first one, because I work there.
Yes.
I'm a recruitment coordinator there, and I love it, and it's an amazing company. So the fundamentals of cannabis. So we learn everything from, you know, the horticulture aspects of it, the biochemical, you know, the different types and the colas and what they're called and the pistols and, you know, all the, where the flower is and how to separate a male from a females and all that kind of stuff. So cannabis education is super, super important because it's finally, you know, they say free the nipple, I say free the flower. You know,
Free
what I mean?
the flower.
Free the flower. She's coming out. You know,
Mother Nature
She's like
is
Nelson
calling.
Mandela coming out of prison, wrongly accused. You know, and she's been this
It's a
beautiful
flower.
plant. Yeah, this beautiful medicinal plant has been criminalized
Yes.
because of fucking Nixon started it. He made it a Schedule I drug to do this.
It began
you know,
way before
yeah,
Nixon. It's
did-
been a
no,
miseducation
it
about
has.
land and
Yeah.
money.
Yeah. So anyway, it's free now almost. It's almost completely free. And you know, you can take a course on, you know, how to open up some cannabis business. You can learn how to do, we have the police sergeant of the Port Hueneme Police. He's now our official spokesman for officer education.
Times
So,
are changing.
Yeah, you know.
Times they are changing.
It's an amazing plant. It should never be considered a drug. Your cannabinoids in your body, it does so many great healing things for you, and it's just about damn time legalize it. Don't, you know?
I agree.
Yeah.
Thank you
Don't
for that.
criticize it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So where's my thumb? Like, I just took an edible a little bit ago. So there you go. This is what
Well,
cannabis
that's
does.
good.
It fries your brain.
Yeah. And we've had a
It's a
completely
wonderful.
successful interview. You've somehow held it together, edible and all. To say that I'm grateful that you took the time out of your very busy day
My
to
business
come
girl, you're so
and do
busy. You're
this.
so hustling.
This is so worth it. I've been looking forward
Me
to
too.
this.
Yeah. Me too.
Thank you for entertaining all of us with your beautiful work, and we look so forward to it. We can't wait. We'll be awaiting the details.
5 years.
Yeah, we'll wait 5 years.
'Cause that's
We
how
really
long it
will.
takes. Another one.
We'll just keep reading other things and awaiting.
We'll
your
be in the
next
nursery
program.
room together. Oh, you got that surf sex
Oh
salvation.
shoot! 5 years, we're gonna be jamming,
Yeah.
baby. I may get younger.
I know.
I know.
Benjamin Button over here.
No, it's my energy.
It's It's rad.
Okay, Hope, I love you.
I love
Thank you.
too.
Oh, sisters,
so much.
cool beans. Okay, ciao. Thank you for joining us on Storytime with Melissa Lynn. See you tomorrow. Ciao.